Alrighty, so it's been a while since I've given y'all a door update. Quite frankly, I've been getting very frustrated with how to be extremely precise. So here's the issue. This gap here is a gap or a line, let's say, that has to be exactly perfect, exactly the same on the other side. Not only, like this, but, your lines cannot be any bit of not perfectly 90 to this plane, okay? So they've got to be perfectly 90 face to back, all right? Now, that wouldn't be exceedingly difficult, except for the fact that this line here has to be perfectly parallel with this line, okay? And then in the same vein as this side, this face line has to be perfectly parallel and in line and 90 to this face front to back, okay? So we've done a few things to try to get ourselves there. We started working with just a miter gauge and running it through the dado stack that way. A little bit of play, wasn't able to get a perfect fit. Then we started working with a track saw, which was working out pretty good. Problem with the track saw is it's just not repeatable. I've got a lot of these to do, so I'm really trying to get something that's repeatable. And when you get something that's repeatable, it takes less time. So there's a time savings, but the primary focus here is precision. So I'll bring you in on our first jig that we made. So our first jig is to help us get those two faces perfectly against each other. So this is the size of the mortise, or sorry, size of the tenon. So we can actually bring it in like this, and it's deeper than the actual tenon, right? But you can see these two faces are perfect, okay? We left a little gap right here, so when this line is, when we're still, before we cut this one, there's still more material there, so we can kind of come up against it like that and then draw a line there. That's what we were gonna do with the track saw. But then I got to thinking about maybe trying to use a table saw sled to get me just that much more accurate and repeatable. And so I'm fixing to turn you around and show you kind of where we're at this point. I think I've gotten to the point where I'm ready to start batching these things out. All right, so here we are in my table saw with the new sled that I just bought. So I know I'm gonna get some hate probably for buying a sled versus making one, but like I was saying, the whole focus here is absolute precision, okay? And yes, I could have made a sled, had one. Let me tell you this, I've made two, not been extremely excited about how precise they were. I didn't find a way to home make a miter sled or a table saw sled and have micro adjustments, okay? I'm sure there's ways to do it, but I'm kind of on a time crunch here, okay? So I bought it, all right? That's that. Okay, so made a sacrificial fence and my story stick and cut them with the table saw itself in the sled. So my line here is exactly a feel gauge, right? So I can feel my gap. This story stick here, this piece of oak, is exactly the width that I need the face to be so I can remove the rest for the mortise and the tenon. Okay, so the story stick here, not only is it quick, but remember we're after precision here, I can be more precise by feeling a story stick and what my gap is and what my overlap is than I could ever be with a tape measure or a ruler or a marking pencil or anything like that, a marking knife. So now the issue was, well, what happens when the boards have bowed a little bit? Because some of them are already moving, because wood moves, okay? So what if I have a board that's a little bit bowed this way? We were having issues with that, causing it to not be perfect. So against my recommendations, we added some little set screws here and here, okay? And then we would back those off just a little bit, so the only 2 points that are touching this sacrificial fence are the 2 screw heads. All right, still following me? Then we use these 2 screw heads to make sure that we're off of the fence about a 1/16, okay? And then we would turn one a little bit in, turn one a little bit out, and we inched in on our not perfect, absolute perfect 90. Okay, so we've got some pretty good tools to measure square, and we are absolutely dead on 90 degrees now. And this is the first time in probably about 4 weeks that I'm actually satisfied with the repeatability and the precision of the setup. So at this point, it's time to start batching them out. It's time to start batching them out and hammering away. So I've got this miter gauge and this sled set up for my precise finish line. I've got that table saw behind me set up with another miter gauge that is good. It's another Incra miter gauge, but we're just hogging away the bulk of the material. So we're getting to the point where, you know, I've got a blade or 2 width of material left on the dado stack, and then we're coming over here and we're getting absolute precision on this one with the final cut. It having just 1 blade in there is going to help me offer less resistance. This is a bigger saw. It's got 5 horsepower versus 2, so it's just going to be that much more precise and easy for it to go through, so that keeps everything nice and square. Another thing here, you can see that that's actually cut to where, you know, it's perfect on holding it in there, so it actually helps keep the board from trying to lip up a little bit. Another added bonus this process, I have a clamp that I can slide in here if I feel like I'm not able to actually hold it in and tight during the actual cut process. But yeah, here we are. This is when it's going to start really coming together. Been working on these doors for several months now, and this is we're getting really close to the first time that we're actually going to start seeing more than just that one first door that I created. So appreciate everybody for following along. Have been having actually a lot of people ask, you know, what's happening with the doors, where are we at, what are they looking like, and so I thought I'd do this one today. So it's Friday afternoon, getting ready to have 2 soccer games this weekend, but besides that, these doors are the priority. Y'all have a good one.